Sup guys, spoilers alert, in this story, our main character is actually the villain. Watch out and beware for thrilling effects. The story begins in 4 worlds: the human world, Gehenna the demon world, the Einharts and the martial arts world. One day, a gate opened, and monsters from these other worlds poured into the human world. Humanity was on the brink of destruction as dragons, beasts, and monsters wreaked havoc. But just when all seemed lost, salvation appeared. From the gate emerged a new force called the Einharts, an energy source connected to magic that allowed humans to defend themselves. Not only that, but the martial arts world called Murim also came to humanity's aid. Martial artists with their dantians filled with inner power wielded swords and fought alongside humans. Lastly, the demon world, Gehenna, made its presence known, teeming with deadly demons and beastly generals. Despite their efforts, humans, once rulers of Earth, were now powerless in this chaotic era. However, some humans awakened, gaining superhuman strength by manipulating the system. These awakened individuals assisted the other worlds, though they were often looked down upon as weak. Among these awakened was Li Yun, the leader of a squad and our protagonist. He told his squad that monsters and the other worlds had been looking down on humans for far too long. His crew agreed, refusing to rely on martial artists or magic to save them. But the sheer number of monsters was overwhelming, and they knew they couldn't handle it alone. While on a mission, they noticed a 3-headed monster attacking a car with a family inside. Li Yun activated his status window, revealing the beast to be a high-level monster with 110 points. The family was in immediate danger, so Li Yun rallied his teammates, urging them to act. His squad members warned that such monsters should be handled by the Manhwa Guild, but Li Yun insisted on intervening, knowing the guild was struggling already with other monsters. Li Yun sprinted towards the monster, throwing a sharp sword that hit one of its heads but didn't kill it. The system notified him of an increase in strength and willpower, but as he fought the monster alone, his stamina waned. He urged his teammates to hurry up and provide support, but the monster began gaining the upper hand. At this point, Li Yun's best friend Hong yelled at him for recklessly engaging the monster alone. Using his tank skills, the friend assisted, and Li Yun smiled, grateful for his unwavering support. But then, in a shocking twist, his best friend betrayed him. Jealous of Li Yun's strength and leadership, he stabbed him in the back, declaring he was tired of living in his shadow. The squad, seemingly in cahoots, mocked and laughed as Li Yun fell, bleeding and betrayed. Somehow, despite his fatal injuries, he escaped, but his friends and assassins pursued him to finish him off. Li Yun sought refuge with an old friend as close as lovers, warning her of the danger. But to his horror, she too betrayed him, apologizing as assassins stormed in. Stripped of his title and abandoned, Li Yun was sent to a disposal site, a deadly pit filled with corpses of monsters and toxic waste. For 5 years he endured life as a slave in the Manhwa Guild's monster disposal site, often mocked by his supervisor, Taimon, who called him worthless. Once the strongest player, Li Yun was now a broken man with dead eyes and no emotions. Desperate, he tried accessing his status window but found nothing, until one day, a mysterious new system appeared. It offered him a choice, to become the vessel of chaos. Another system warned him that the wrong choice could lead to the world's destruction. Grinning darkly, Li Yun chose destruction. If ending the world meant ending his suffering, he was ready to accept it. Suddenly, his consciousness was transported to another dimension, where disembodied voices debated whether this broken man could truly be the vessel of chaos. Though Li Yun's face betrayed no emotion, deep within, he felt a spark reigniting. He met 3 great kings, the rulers of Einhart, martial arts world, and Gehenna. They are the 3 powers that now control the earth, the legendary 3 kings. What lies before his eyes are the 3 legends forgotten in the 4 worlds, remembered only as history. The martial king was famous. Thousands of years ago, he conquered the continent with just his fist. The king of Einhart could split the sky with a single sword, earning the title Sword King. Then there was the God Slayer. This lady killed the gods and destroyed divinity. She is the queen of Gehenna, the demon queen. Li Yun's consciousness had been sent to a chaotic world where the 3 kings were sealed. In this place, time stops. Thousands of years here are equivalent to just 1 second in the human realm. Li Yun, who's weak and unable to express his disbelief, stared in awe. The 3 kings were still wondering why his face looked so bewildered. Was he truly the vessel of chaos? They all wondered what he was looking at. He seemed lost, not hearing them at all, his gaze fixed elsewhere. His mind was occupied by the system, which had shown him a path. If he took it, he would become the vessel of chaos. Then another system appeared, warning him that depending on his choice, the world's destruction might follow. Li Yun thought, does this mean he can take revenge on the world that betrayed him? If that's possible, then he will choose the path of destruction. The three kings noticed his expression. One said, look at this boy. Is this brat ignoring us? Another replied, it seems so. They finally voiced their thoughts, asking our MC if he think destroying the world will bring him peace. It's not that simple if he's the chosen vessel of chaos. They asked if he truly desire the world's destruction. Li Yun, with growing confidence, replied that even the system shows him the way to destruction. That makes him all the more certain since he genuinely wished for it. The Sword King warned him, if he go down this path, chaos will enact revenge, not him. He'll lose his body and mind, left to witness a world destroyed by chaos. Is that the revenge he seek? Trapped in indecision, Li Yun asked, what do they want him to do now? The Demon Queen grinned wickedly and said that they'll let him destroy the world. They'll help him enact his revenge with his own hands. Whether he beat the world to death or tear it apart, it must be done by him for him to be truly satisfied. Li Yun, with a downcast face, asked, how can he do that with his frail body? The Demon Queen smirked. Who does he think they are? They are the three kings, and if he inherit everything from them and contain chaos, revenge will no longer be a concern, it will be his destiny. With a pause, Li Yun mused, for the three kings to ask a broken person like him to be their disciple. If it means he can have his revenge, so be it. He then asked if he should start calling them Master then. With glee they said, yes, that's right, he can call them Master. The Sword King felt uneasy at how easily Li Yun agreed to their offer. But then again, who wouldn't? With that, Li Yun became their disciple in the sealed world. In this timeless realm, they taught him all they had learned over thousands of years. From the Sword King to the Demon Queen and the martial arts master, each passed on their knowledge. They trained his body and taught him to contain chaos. After hundreds of years, he finally succeeded. Our MC has trained for over 100 years in the sealed world to seal the chaos in him. Back then, the system gave him a path to take in order to become the vessel of chaos. The three kings said they had done everything they could, and if it still didn't work, there was nothing more they could do. Beyond that part lay the answer to it all. The masters called their disciple and asked him what his name was, since they only knew him as their disciple. They didn't know his name. Our MC was like, are they seriously asking him that after hundreds of years in the sealed world? After all those years training with them? With a dry laugh, the martial king said he must have spent too much time with their disciple. He was once called a ghost, devoid of blood or tears, and yet, even he seemed to have developed some affection for their disciple. So our MC told them his name, Li Yun. After that, he took the path, and after taking that path, he screamed in pain as he became the vessel of chaos. After a while, he was about to fall, and the Demon Queen held him. While his body fought against its power, Li Yun said he feels dizzy, and the king told him that it's the chaos that is eating up his mind. They told him that from now on, nightmares would always haunt him, and if he succumbed to the nightmares, chaos would awaken again. Li Yun, with a determined face, said he had expected as much. He told the three kings that they should kill him now. Upon seeing this, they were all shocked and they asked him why. Li Yun said that he knew all along that the three kings were not actually bad. At first, one would think that the three kings wanted Li Yun to unleash chaos on the world, but the truth was they were trying to kill chaos, to seal it away from the world. Our MC turned out to be the vessel. After sealing chaos within his body, they would destroy chaos along with him, so it would be forever gone from the four worlds. He told them that he knew the complete annihilation of chaos was their goal. He had known it from the start. Surprised, they asked him why he cooperated with them if he knew all along. With a sigh, Li Yun said that he had been betrayed by everyone and left with nothing, so trusting others had become impossible for him. But from the three masters, he felt the warmth he had forgotten, and revenge no longer mattered to him. He simply wished to repay them for showing him kindness. As his final request, he asked them to please tell him their names, since he only knew them as his masters. The martial king said his name was Xin Yol. The sword king said his name was Zeekhartz von Damien, and the demon queen said her name was Bergena. After hearing their names, Li Yun said he had no regrets anymore. He proclaimed that he, Li Yun, would die here and now for his masters. He closed his eyes, awaiting death. But after a short suspense, Zeke told him that he wouldn't die here. Li Yun was surprised and asked, "What? How then are they going to seal chaos if he don't die with it?" Zeke then told him that he was their disciple and child after all. How could they kill someone like him with their own hands? They said that the chaos within him would be sealed by them. Since it was the chaos they had pursued for so long, their power could bind it. Afterward, the dimensional chains would break, and Li Yun would return to his rightful place. Li Yun asked them what would happen to them. They told him they would be sealed somewhere deep within the world, and bang, they began sealing the chaos within him. As they did that, Li Yun yelled after them, remembering all the quality time he had spent with them in the sealed world. He had spent 100 years with them. They told him to go, and he should never look for them again. When Li Yun returned to the human realm, he found himself weakened. His body had reverted to its fragile state, stripped of the power of a player. He sighed, remembering the Martial King's words. The human world cannot handle the immense power he've achieved, so he'll have to rebuild his body to contain it. He still laid on the floor thinking nothing but thoughts. Then Taemin, the slave supervisor, yelled, asking why is he sleeping in pile of trash, and as he was about smashing him, our MC quickly dodged with fast reflexes. Taemin became furious that he dodged the attack and tried to punch him, but Li Yun blocked it. Taemin is a level 5 awakener, and our MC, after losing his powers, couldn't defeat him in this state. As he pondered his situation, the supervisor, Taemin, tried to attack him. But Li Yun, recalling his master's teachings, used killing intent, a force beyond physical strength. With a cold, devilish aura, he twisted Taemin's hand, piercing his chest. The other slaves watched in shock as Taemin crumbled, terrified. Li Yun then declared that imperfect violence invites resistance, but fear engraves itself into the bones. From now on, just meeting our MC's gaze will make Taemin wet himself. Realizing time was short, Li Yun broke into the dungeon's forbidden depths, ignoring the warnings of other slaves. He dove into a pit filled with poisonous fumes and blood, a perfect place for mastering the blood demon arts he had learned from the Demon Queen. The Martial King had told him, the blood demon skill is the ultimate technique. It allows one to absorb the life force in blood to gain power. However, to use it, Li Yun needed a Dantian, a core of strength, normally exclusive to martial arts warriors. The Martial King had explained that he must create one through endless trials and death. Back in the sealed world, Li Yun endured countless deaths to succeed. Now he knows what it takes. Now, in the present, he clearly remembered the procedure and the agony he endured. The first step, absorb blood and circulate the energy to create a blood Dantian. Using the demonic blood absorption skill, Li Yun began the process, bracing himself for the excruciating pain to come. He knew this wasn't pain of the human world, it was far worse. But it was worth it to gain the power he needed. The monster corpse disposal site was feared for good reason. Venom from the corpses, combined with the aura of death, created deformed monsters. This place was known as the Lair of the Undead. As Li Yun finished absorbing blood, deformed monsters began to surround him. The first to attack was a goblin zombie. Each of its strikes was laced with venom, and it was a creature that wouldn't die even if its head were severed. If our MC had been in his previous body, he would already be dead, but now he was far stronger. Gripping the goblin's head with his bare hands, he crushed it, causing it to explode. Using the demonic blood absorption skill again, he drained the goblin's blood and felt its energy surging through his body. Now it feels like he can live a bit. After absorbing the goblin's blood, he could feel the energy surging through his body. The blood was turning the nutrients and life force energy inside it into his own. Not only that, but from the blood, there were iron elements that could be utilized. He discovered he could create an explosive ball known as an iron bead. After forming the iron bead from his blood, he sent it flying at the goblins, and bang, it exploded, taking off the head of one of the monsters. Such power. He created more and more of these iron beads, aiming to devour all the goblins without leaving anything behind. Their heads were sent flying one after the other. In the end, these goblins were nothing more than his prey. He killed them with style and skill. A while later, he had slain all the goblins around him. But suddenly, as he was admiring his newfound power, he felt a huge figure looming behind him. Bang! The huge monster attempted to attack him, but he quickly dodged. The creature delivered a thunderous blow to the ground, and had it landed on him, he would have been reduced to scraps. In another scene, it felt as if the supervisor was trapped in a nightmare. He kept shivering, muttering to himself that he was going to die and begging for someone to save him. Seeing the killing intent in Li Yun had left him terrified. Hong, the one who betrayed our MC, arrived and noticed the supervisor's state. Curious, he asked what had happened. One of the other assassins gathered the guards on duty during the incident. Hong asked everyone to share what they knew about the supervisor's condition. One slave explained that the supervisor had been berating a dozing slave. But that slave had suddenly glared at him and grabbed his hand, and then this happened. Hong was stunned. The supervisor had ended up in this state simply from a glare. He speculated aloud, could that slave have used murderous intent? But that's impossible. Unless the slave was a martial artist with internal energy. He yelled at the guards, demanding to know where the slave was. They informed him that the slave had committed suicide. Surprised, he asked about the body, and the guards explained that it had been disposed of in the corpse disposal area, and likely melted away by now. Furious, the captain snapped and grabbed a guard by the mouth, accusing him of reporting the suicide just to avoid checking the disposal site. He crushed the guard's face, killing him instantly. Terrified, the remaining guards were given two options: face the same fate or retrieve the slave's body from the disposal site. They chose the latter and left immediately. Afterward, Hong confided to the other assassins that the guards would likely die from poison before finding the body. Unbeknownst to them, the slave was none other than Li Yun, Hong's former best friend, whom he had betrayed. Our MC had survived in the disposal area, absorbing blood and slaying monsters. 2 weeks later, he had advanced to the second stage of blood demon arts, known as self-blood. In one section of the disposal site, immense poison had accumulated. Li Yun used his blood arts to disperse the poison with a loud bang. Despite the poison and torment, he survived because of his mastery of self-blood. Otherwise, his body would have melted long ago. Having completed his preparations, it was time to pursue his true purpose. In this third world, transcendent species, monsters of the highest danger, were legendary. Among them, dragons were the most noble and infamous. Years ago, a dragon named Orgolas had emerged from a gate. Orgolas was a resurrected serpent dragon, filled with resentment. Many warriors risked their lives to subdue it, and they succeeded. Its blood became the most coveted alchemical material, and its bones were forged into unique grade weapons. However, Orgolas's corpse was steeped in poison, malice, and magic. Just touching it could melt one's body. To purify it, the Manhwa Guild created a corpse processing plant. The Manhwa Guild, which had betrayed Li Yun, sent slaves into the corpse to absorb the poison with their body. Li Yun vowed to make the Manhwa Guild pay for their betrayal with interest. Using his demonic absorption skills, he began draining the dragon's blood. Back when he was in the sealed ward, he had told the Martial King about the dragon relic in the human world. It was his plan all along to absorb its power upon his return. The Martial King told him that if it was a dragon skeleton, he could gain a lot of strength and power. But absorbing such power would likely hurt like hell and be painful. As he was absorbing the blood from the dragon's corpse, he felt a surge of pain. His veins bulged out of his body, and he almost lost consciousness. If it weren't for his training with the Three Kings, he would have fainted right there. The dragon's power was making his energy pile up like crazy. Although the dragon had been dead for some time, this level of power was still too much. And bang, he began coughing blood. It was already too much for his body, and it couldn't withstand the power. If he let go now, his energy would flow backward, and he would die. But if he kept absorbing the power, his whole body would explode because it was too much. This was an expected outcome, but he wondered if this was truly his last resort. Back in the sealed world, the Demon Queen had told him that he might not be able to absorb all the dragon's power. Since dragons were highly regarded even in Gehenna, the demon world, it was almost impossible for an ordinary human body to fully accept that power. She told our MC that there was one way he could absorb the power. The only way was to become a dragon. Our MC was shocked and asked her if that was even possible. She told him it was, since they had taught him everything. They had passed down all their teachings, and he had received the essence from the Three Kings. Becoming a dragon was just a step he had to pass through. Now, as he was absorbing the power, he was about to explode. So, he decided to reconstruct his body and undergo a complete genetic transformation once more. Nothing was impossible for him now, as even chaos had been contained within his body. He groaned and yelled in pain. Then, bang! He finally turned into a dragon. Though his whole body didn't transform, his eyes changed into those of a dragon. The surge of power and the absorption caused tremors in the whole area. From above the disposal sites, they felt the tremor and wondered what was happening. As the captain came down to the disposal site, he was shocked and dumbfounded. All the corpses and poisons in the area had completely disappeared. It seemed like something that would be impossible, even for a Guardian-level mana user. So, what on earth was going on? Where were all the monster corpses? Unshockingly, he was surprised to see that the dragon's corpse had also disappeared. He ordered the assassin to urgently report to the guild that the poison in the corpse disposal area had vanished. As the assassin was about to leave, a metal ball flew towards him. Though the assassin dodged it, it still exploded mid-air. His head ripped off with a loud bang, and the area exploded. The captain caught the assassin's body, but it had turned to ashes. He muttered to himself, "What was that explosion? What the hell just happened? If that explosion happens a few more times, the entire corpse disposal area will be blown away." Then, bang, Li Yun appeared and said he heard his betrayer friend had become the chief of the Manhwa Guild, but he was still the same, scared and hiding behind others in fear. With a change in aura and evil eyes, Li Yun called him Traitor Kim Xing Hong. Hong was surprised to see Li Yun was still alive. He asked, "Is that really him?" Li Yun replied, "Hong can't believe he's still alive just because he look a little different? Or is it that he don't want to admit it?" Hong had sold Li Yun out to become the raid leader, but now he seemed more cowardly than ever. Upon hearing this, Hong slammed his hand on the ground and told his assassins to kill Li Yun immediately. As they flew toward him, our MC didn't even move. He was not scared at all. Li Yun knew how their skills worked. Black Hawk assassins use stealth skills to attack. Naturally, being invisible was extremely dangerous, but that was only true for normal players who couldn't sense inner power. And bang! Li Yun cut the assassin trying to use stealth on him. He had reached the third stage of the demon blood skin. After launching the demon blood, the iron ball split apart like a gunshot, tearing apart the enemy and absorbing the inner power and magic of anyone it touched before exploding. After sending an iron ball to the assassin, he absorbed the assassin's power, created multiple black beads, and sent them flying. It killed all the assassins in an instant, causing tremors in the disposal site. Upon seeing this, Hong wondered, how does this bastard have a skill of this caliber? He used the system to research Li Yun's power, activating the skill information search. What the system showed him was shocking. He couldn't believe his eyes. He suddenly began to feel dizzy as he saw numbers on the system that didn't seem to belong to this world. He thought, what the hell, the system can't even show him Li Yun's power. Upon noticing this, our MC asked Hong, "Are you dying to know my power level? How I gained this power?" He knew Hong was the type of person who would never act without enough information about his enemy's power. Hong snapped and asked our MC if he's confident he'll win if they fight right now. He unsheathed his sword and said, "He's no longer the tank Li Yun used to know. Now he's stronger and fiercer." Drawing his sword, he said Li Yun is always the same, always acting like he's so righteous and better than everyone else. And just like the old days, he yelled and told Li Yun to go on and engage. He should go all out and bring the fight. Our MC replied he was planning on doing that anyway. He didn't need to be told. So he sent just one of the black beads, and bang! Hong blocked it with his sword, but it still sent him flying with a loud explosion. In an instant, Li Yun appeared behind him, about to launch another black bead. With a smirk, he told Hong that despite calling himself a raid leader, nothing much had changed. He was still as weak as ever. As he sent the black bead, Hong quickly used his tank shield to block the impacts, and everywhere exploded. He tried to attack Li Yun, but Li Yun dodged it as if his sword was in slow motion. Hong found an opening and tried to kill Li Yun quickly, but our MC was faster. He sent another black bead, and it exploded, sending Hong flying backward. He was still in shock and asked Li Yun how he had gained such power. Since he had definitely lost his abilities as a player, how could this be? He yelled, demanding our MC tell him how he gained such strength. But with dead eyes, our MC told him, what would a cowardly traitor like him do with such knowledge? If he told him, what would he do with it? Hong became angry, holding his sword, yelling that Li Yun should die. but our MC told him that such attacks wouldn't work on him. Hong didn't listen, using everything he had. He created multiple shield walls from the ground around him, trying to defend himself from the black bead. As Hong was about to attack, he thought to himself that Li Yun had no other means of attacking besides throwing those black beads. If he blocked the black bead and attacked, there would be nothing left for Li Yun to do. Suddenly, Hong used all his energy, converting the sword into a bomb and sent it toward Li Yun, and bang, the area exploded. Afterward, he thought to himself that even the top-ranked players wouldn't survive this attack. He felt sure that Li Yun was dead, but suddenly, he was shocked by his findings. After the smoke cleared, our MC was seen unscathed, not a single scratch on him. Hong was like, what? What the hell happened? He tried to use his other sword to attack, but Li Yun told him it was too—
Don't move, don't move. Don't move, it's over. You already lost.
Our MC, surrounded by smoke, said, "This is too easy. Way too easy. Is this all he has?" After killing the assassins, Li Yun was curious about how powerful the skills he had learned from his masters were. Li Yun was someone who nearly became a high ranker 5 years ago, but now he could feel how incredible his master's teachings were. He wondered how effective this power would be against humans, or rather, not even humans. But it felt too easy. He was so powerful that even just one skill from his master's teachings was overwhelming. Hong may not be a high ranker level, but he was at least level 150. If Li Yun could take him down with just one blood demon art skill, imagine what he could do with all his skills. He would never lose, not even to the guild masters of the Manhwa Guild, or their greatest warriors. Even those at the peak of the world, known as the One Hand, the 5 greatest warriors, he could defeat them all. Li Yun had waited 100 years for revenge, but now that he could finally achieve it, it felt empty. While he was deep in thought, Hong called out, begging for his life and telling him to spare him. He said he had no choice but to betray him 5 years ago. Our MC was furious, asking, "You had no choice? You stabbed me in the back and now you say you had no choice?" In his anger, Li Yun sent a black bead, ready to explode Hong's head, but Hong quickly begged him to wait. He promised to tell him where the others who betrayed him were. After his outburst, Hong said he would help Yun get his revenge as he begged for his life. But after hearing this, Li thought, this betrayer, who betrayed him, is now trying to betray others again. With cold, dead eyes, Li Yun muttered, "When he die, the others will hear about it. Hong should wait for them in the afterlife, because he'll be sending them to hell soon enough." And with a swift bang, he exploded Hong's head, blood splashing everywhere. Afterward, he climbed out of the disposal pits and came to the surface. As he walked, the cracks in the ground broke apart, revealing a sight of slaves, all staring in surprise. The slaves instinctively knew that the man who broke free from the abyss had defeated the Black Vipers and their captain, Hong. As Li Yun walked, he looked at the slaves and thought to himself, if not for his masters who trained him, he could have been in the same situation as the slaves. Since they were all doomed to die anyway, he had no choice but to end their suffering. He sent multiple black beads toward them. Upon seeing this, the slaves began running. One after the other, they yelled that they didn't want to die, but then something unexpected happened. They thought they were going to explode as usual, but it turned out that Li Yun had removed the slave seal from their bodies. They were finally free from their slavery. He made a hole in the roof of the cave, and as the place began to collapse, he told the slaves they should decide for themselves if they wanted to die buried in ruins or escape to a nearby village. He then began flying toward the surface, and the rest of the slaves, in a panic, also ran for their lives. Once he reached the top of the cave on a huge mountain, our MC thought to himself, when he first met his master, he wanted to destroy the world, but now, after witnessing their sacrifices to seal chaos, he realized what he should do. This world, filled with chaos, he will devour it and make it his own. About 2 months later, some men heard the news about what happened at the disposal site. In Wu, the leader of the Red Plum Raid from the Volcano Guild, folded his arms and scoffed. How ridiculous. He've heard the report, but he didn't believe it. He saw Hong's dead body and called him a fool for not handling a few slaves. In Wu then asked one of the assassins, what about the interrogation of the captured slaves? The assassin replied that the slaves don't seem to remember anything at all. It's as if someone interfered with their memories and erased them. Even the slave seals were removed from their bodies. The assassin also told In Wu that there were traces of someone distorting the magic cycle from within the slaves. Upon hearing this, In Wu asserted that, For someone to remove the slave marks from the slaves, it must have been someone at least on the level of a master. He then asked the assassin, "Any other traces?" The assassin replied, "No traces of martial artists or players were found within the disposal sites, and it seems the damage might have been caused by Einhardt's magicians or Gehenna's demons." In Wu speculated, "It's probably Gehenna. After all, their true purpose must be blood." Suddenly, another assassin called out to In Wu, telling him that the corpse of the dragon had disappeared. Upon hearing this, In Wu said to himself, "As expected, if Gehenna is involved, they likely have ways to use the dragon's corpse without purifying it." He told the assassin to contact the headquarters and instruct them to investigate every trace of Gehenna's activity on Earth over the past year, down to the last month. The assassin left immediately. In Wu then looked at Hong's dead body and asked, "What was this trash doing? What did Hong come here for?" The assassin told him, "Hong came to confirm the death of the slave Li Yun." In Wu knew our MC well. 5 years ago, Li Yun was on the verge of becoming a high ranker. If he hadn't been demoted and betrayed, his name would have been well known by now. He then asked the assassin, "What about Li Yun's corpse? Has it been found?" The assassin replied, "About a month ago, when Li Yun's slave mark broke, he entered the abyss." In Wu concluded, his body wouldn't have been able to withstand the poison. He must have died by now. He told the assassin that they wrap things up here. Then they'll hunt the remaining slaves that escaped. In another scene, in Dongdaemun District, Seoul, Li Yun, wearing a hoodie, entered a bar. But this was no ordinary bar. Inside, there were whispers about the attack on the disposal site at Manhwa. One person wondered who would be crazy enough to attack that place, and rumors had it that it was Gehenna's doing. A lady chimed in saying it must have been Gehenna, likely after the corpse of the dragon. Another man added, "Does this mean that Gehenna attacking signifies the end of the truce between the two worlds?" A third person agreed, "Yes, it seems so, for them to mess with the Mantua Guild after all." As our MC walked past, he thought, everyone's talking about the Mantua Guild, as expected of Korea's top 3 great guilds. It's no surprise, but he certainly said that soon he would bring them all down. This would just take a little bit longer. First of all, he needed to find his master's faction in the other world. That would be the most effective way for him to get stronger. And for someone like him, with no official status, this bar was the only option to look for people. He walked up to the bartender, who was holding a glass cup. The bartender asked him what he would like, and he told him he would like a Kahlua milk without milk, but it should be strong and sweet, with just ice. The bartender was confused. "What the hell? You want a Kahlua milk without milk? How is that possible? That's not even a recipe." Suddenly, a man who seemed to understand what our MC meant stepped in. He told the bartender he'd take care of it, and that the bartender should go organize the inventory. After the man left, the manager approached and asked our MC when he last used this kind of ancient code. Did he just return from some gates in the past, or had he been away for 5 years? With a smile, our MC replied, "It's actually more like 100 years later that he returned." The manager asked him, "Who is he? Some kind of demon?" Our MC replied that he's not a demon, but does it matter? This place, this bar, is the kind of place where it doesn't matter. It turned out that the manager was Jack, the head of the black market Seoul branch. Our MC asked him about a job. Jack asked what type of job he wanted, and our MC replied that anything would be fine, but it should be in a D-rank gate or higher. Reaching for a cupboard, Jack said he'd got just the right job for him. He unlocked it, pulled out some files, and placed them on the table for Li Yun to slowly look through. As our MC was flipping through the files, he was surprised to see one for a kidnapping job. Jack explained that the kidnapping job involved luring beginners into leveling up, trapping them in a gate, and demanding ransom from their parents. The targets were children of rich families, so a lot of money could be made from them. Jack also mentioned that the job paid 200 million with a 30% commission. Upon hearing this, Li Yun packed the file and said, "What a trashy job." Jack, not quite understanding, reached for a gun in his cupboard and asked if our MC was serious about taking a job or just wasting his time. Pointing the gun at him, Jack warned, "Sometimes idiots come here with misguided ideas of justice, only to try and take down the bar." But Li Yun wasn't scared. He knew he wouldn't die from a simple gunshot. After a short pause, he told Jack he shouldn't worry. He liked the job. Jack should just tell his people behind to lower their weapons and killing intents. Jack was surprised to see that Li Yun noticed the killing intents of the people in the bar. Therefore, he feels he can entrust our MC with the job. He told Lee Yun he'd contact him soon and gave him a walkie-talkie, specially for black market use. Jack then offered our MC a drink, but he declined, saying that might be a problem. If he drink and fall asleep, everyone in the bar will die. Jack, seeing how serious our MC was, shrugged, "Suit yourself." As Lee Yun turned to leave, Jack muttered to himself, "This kid's a late bloomer with a middle school delusion complex. He'll die soon enough at this rate." He really doesn't know what he's getting into. In the next scene, at a D-rank gate in Namyang City, a group of young stars from rich families waved at a guy named Cheol. Cheol waved back and said to Min Hong, "He's here already." He informed his colleagues that the young stars were players joining them, and that they should be treated like younger siblings. The 4 young stars bowed and asked the seniors to take care of them as they entered the gate. Cheol turned to Min Hong and asked, how does he feel about his first field operation? Min Hong said he was a little nervous, but Cheol reassured him. There's no need to worry, his party members have been with him for 3 years. A D-rank gate is no big deal. Pointing to his right, he said that 2 wanderers would also be joining them for the raid. Upon hearing the word wanderers, the young stars were shocked. Wanderers were notorious for their ruthless ways, but Cheol calmed them, explaining that the 2 wanderers were martial artists who had been with him for 3 years as well. Although it's a lie, reluctantly, the young stars accepted this. Our MC, who was one of the wanderers, thought to himself that even the black market disguised him as a wanderer. However, he noticed one of the young stars didn't seem surprised at all by his aura change. He thought to himself that he had found what he was looking for. Later, the group, including the young stars, gathered for a small feast before heading to the dungeon. Min Hong thanked Cheol, saying that because of him, his experience points had increased a lot. He asked Cheol if they would really be able to hunt by themselves tomorrow. The young stars admitted that they had come secretly, without telling their parents. Cheol reassured them, saying they shouldn't worry. He've planned a safe route for the hunt. But everything seemed suspicious. He trailed off, a hint of doubt in his voice. He told the youngsters to rest well, as tomorrow they would finally get to taste some real action. With a smile, Min Hong said he would follow Cheol anywhere and trusted him completely. Once the youngsters went inside, the rest of the guild exchanged glances. These little ones know nothing. They've fallen for their tricks. Meanwhile, our MC, disguised as a wanderer, sat quietly. As he was sitting down, the girl in red walked up to him and asked if she could sit next to him. Our MC didn't reply, he just turned his gaze sharply, and she sat down anyway. She asked him, "He's a wanderer, right?" With a slight grin, she added, "If he is a martial artist, what level is he at, since he didn't help with today's hunting?" Lee Yun then told her, "Don't she know it's rude to ask a martial artist about their level?" She replied, "Oh, she didn't know, she's just a newbie." But our MC, with a slight gaze, thought to himself, this girl doesn't even pretend to be flustered. How obvious can she be? She then asked, is it okay for her to at least ask his name? Our MC gave her a sharp look, and upon seeing his gaze, the girl in red was taken aback for a moment. Our MC quickly turned back to normal, pretending as if nothing had happened. He then said, "His name is Lee Yun." As she heard this, the girl in red muttered to herself that the name sounded familiar for some reason. Just then, one of the younger girls came over and told the girl in red that it was her turn to keep watch, so she should go in and rest now. The girl in red, whose name Yunha, turned to our MC and said, "She'll be heading off first." It was short, but she enjoyed talking to him. As she walked, she thought to herself that Lee Yun didn't seem like a bad person. But what was that strange feeling she had just now? Just a glance from him made her feel like something was running down her spine. In the next scene, it was morning, and they were fighting monsters. One of the senior members exclaimed that it was almost time for the gates to close. Cheol then told Min Hong that the gate was about to close, and if he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to go through until after the boss was dealt with. But Min Hong, though trembling, asked, "Can't they go with him to fight the boss?" He said that he was a proper player too. Min Hong said that every time they face a tough enemy, how can he get stronger if he's scared of getting hurt? After hearing this, Cheol asked if Min Hong was sure about it, and he replied, "Of course, he's ready to fight the boss monster, and finally ready to face the challenge." Cheol then said, "That's the spirit, so why don't he take on the monsters coming towards them?" With determination, Min Hong grinned and said he had been waiting for this moment. The youngsters began attacking the orcs that were approaching. Meanwhile, Cheol and the senior members exchanged signals. Knowing that the gate was already closing, meaning the youngsters couldn't return. They couldn't leave since the boss hadn't been defeated yet, so they would have no choice but to stay. As the fight continued, Minhong fell to the ground. He exclaimed, "These orcs are stronger than he thought." He begged Sheol for help, but he made an excuse, saying that the situation was chaotic, and he was dealing with monsters on his end too. Minhong had no choice but to handle the orcs himself. Realizing there was no other option, one of the monsters was about to strike Minhong, so he quickly reached into his pocket for one of his greatest weapons, a gift from his father. He hadn't expected to use it so soon. He unwrapped the paper, cast the fire strike spell, and with a loud bang, it slayed all the huge monsters in an instant. Sheol, pretending to care, asked Minhong if he was all right. He apologized for not being able to help as he was fighting other monsters, but was relieved that Minhong had a high-tier scroll. Minhong explained that his father had told him to use the spell only in extremely dangerous situations. It was a one-time use spell, but very expensive. Chol then asked if Minhong had any more items like that. Minhong replied, "No, that was the last one." Suddenly, Chol pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket. Minhong asked, "What is that?" Chol smiled and replied, "It's my turn." He cast the spell bind, and ropes appeared, binding Minhong and throwing him to the ground. Minhong yelled, asking Chol what he was doing. It turned out that Minhong wasn't the only one. The rest of the young stars were also bound and kneeling. With an evil grin, the senior crew members laughed at the youngsters for falling for their tricks all this time. Minhong, stunned as usual, still couldn't believe what was happening. He told Sheol to stop joking and untie him, but Sheol slapped him across the face, trying to reset his brain. Then, with a change in his aura, Sheol asked Minhong if it's because his parents are rich. That's why his head is full of flowers. He pointed his sword at Minhong and said he needed to make him understand the gravity of the situation. He would start by cutting off one of Minhong's ears. Just then, Unha, the girl in red, arrived, using her sword to parry Cheol's strike. As they fought, Cheol asked her how she had broken the magic restraints. She smiled and responded, making a few gestures, and a blazing force appeared around her sword. Upon seeing this, Cheol realized she was a martial artist, which explained why the magic restraints didn't work on her. When he checked her info, it confirmed she was a player. He was confused, and asked how she managed to bypass the system. Unha didn't reply. Instead, she asked Cheol if he's a C-rank player. At that moment, one of Cheol's crew members stepped forward and told him to step aside. Since he was also a martial artist, he would handle the girl in red. Judging from her sword aura, he said she was a martial arts pinnacle just like him. He complimented her spirit, but asked if she could take on all of them at once. Unha, standing her ground, thought to herself that facing a pinnacle martial artist and 3 C-rank warriors wasn't good odds for her. She would definitely lose. The fight began, with the martial artist leading the charge, but Unha defended herself. After a while, she paused to catch her breath and thought to herself that just one pinnacle warrior was already tough enough to handle, let alone the rest of them. Cheol noticed our MC, who had been watching the fight from the sidelines. He demanded to know what he was doing and why he hadn't assisted them since they entered the gate. He told Li Yun, if you want to get paid, he'd better catch that woman in red already. After a short pause, Li Yun began walking toward the girl in red. As he did, she cursed herself, thinking, "Damn it, that man." Since yesterday, for some reason, she felt a chill every time she's near him. Even meeting his eyes feels intimidating. If he joins the fight with the rest of them, she'll lose instantly. She couldn't help but wonder, who the hell is he?